Welcome back to the channel. Incredibly, we're on to series 4 of Wheeler Dealers trying to track down what happened to these cars. And this time we've got a Porsche 911, the second Porsche that Wheeler Dealers ever did. And we've got a Jeep CJ7, something a bit different for these guys, but let's see where it takes us. Right, let's crack on. But you're going to notice something. Background's different. Yeah, it's Saturday night. We might have had a couple of drinks and suddenly we realised we've got to put this video out on Sunday morning. So it may not be as slick as we normally do, but hang in there and we'll see what we can do. But I tell you what, we've had a great time making this. Anyway, first car out, Porsche 911SC. Now, let's put this in perspective even, that Wheeler Dealers have now got a £6,000 budget. Remember, just in the first season, they only had £1,000 and that's when they were playing with a 924. So with £6,000, Mike went out there and bought a left-hand drive Californian import 911SC. Now, he paid $5,000 for this, which, you know, for a Porsche 911 in today's terms is quite cheap. But it did have a few issues. On the upside, it originally had a respray in British Racing Green, so it did look quite resplendent in its paintwork, but the rest of it wasn't great. Now, once they got it back into the workshop, the big problem was the gearbox. So Mike set off and, you know, found someone to refurbish the gearbox. And with my little poking around that I do on the forums, there did seem to be quite a lot of comments about how cheap he paid for this reconditioned gearbox, but I'm no Porsche expert, so I'll leave that one for you guys to discuss in the comments below. But Ed set to work, dropped the engine out, took the gearbox off, Mike had it fixed. Ed did a full service on the engine while he was there. He also did some cosmetic jobs on the car as well. It had like a motorcycle shaped rear number plate, so he replaced that with a British style one. He replaced the bumper overriders with UK spec. There were some horrible chrome trims around the wheel arches. He took those off and did a few other jobs around it. Oh, this other one, the door mirrors. It looked like someone had fitted them on with rule plugs. So Ed set about, put proper mirrors on it and sort the job out. So let's do the first stage. How did the numbers work out? Well, as I've already said, Mike paid £5,000 for this car. It cost them, you know, within a few quid, £2,000 to fix up. So they're £7,000 all in. They sold it for 8.5. So they made a profit of just under 1,500. So they were quite happy with that. But let's fast forward to 2023. And where does it take us? Well, I know you all grumble, but Practical Classics magazine, looking at their condition 1, for this car is an incredible £36,500. Just shows how much these Porsche 911s have gone up over the years. And that is a change in price of £28,000. And so far in this series we've done, this is by far and away the biggest uplift that we've seen. Now, the bit you're all here for, what happened to this car? Well, the first stage is Ed went and revisited it as part of the Wheeler Dealers Revisited series they did in 2010. And he took a few laps of it at Knock Hill Circuit, and generally it was still in pretty good condition and being looked after. But what happened to it after that? Well, let's go to our friends over at My Car Check and see what's happened with, you know, the history of that car that we can find out with one of their comprehensive checks. Well, it had an MOT in 06, 07, 08, skipped 09 for some reason, had one in 2010 and that expired in 2011. So often, you know, when we have this kind of thing, we know that when the MOTs stop, the car has possibly died away. Well, let's have a look at the owners. Well, the current or the last owner that's recorded had it from September 2006. And as I mentioned, this program went out in August 2006, so that's not long after. So it's all sort of, you know, fairly tight in that time and nothing's happened afterwards. But let's look at this. Scroll up a bit further, we look under export. Well, we know this car was imported because it came from California, but in fact it was exported on the 1st of February 2012. It's out of the country, and like all these car checks, you don't know where it's actually gone. It's left the country, but to where we don't know. Now, just as a couple of interesting little extra tidbits on this car, when we look at the My Car Check data, when you scroll down, it actually had a private plate on it previously, which was MFA 714. Now, we have a few questions about private plates, because some of these cars which have disappeared, have they just gone on the private plate? Now, the problem is you can only search cars by the plate they're on currently. And for example, this MFA 714, this is currently on a Range Rover. I've got no idea what it was on previously, apart from this Porsche. So it is always a problem. This is how some of these cars could have disappeared. And for the other one, you know, I go poking around on the old forums and, you know, see what I can find out. There wasn't an awful lot on this car, which is quite a surprise, as it obviously was a 911. But the one funny thing I did find, which was repeated quite often, was when Mike takes the pristine example out, which was a black 911, it was UPN-609S, and for those of you who are interested, it's still taxed, it's still MOT, so it's a current car. The owner made an interesting comment, and watching the Wheeler Dealer videos, it actually shows this has been the most repeated moment, where the owner says, Mike asked him, what do I need to watch out for? And he says, well, what you need to watch out for is inside the filler cap, is if you get like a white mayonnaise substance, it could be the head gasket gone. Well, you get that if the head gasket goes and it's water cooled, but as far as I'm aware, unless you can tell me different, the 911 of that era was air cooled. So to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense, but you guys out there might know something different. So if you do, please drop a comment below. Right, and on to our second vehicle. And this one is a 1983 Jeep CJ7. Now, this is not a usual vehicle to be seen in the UK. It's more common in America. It's very much in that style of an evolution of the World War II Willys Jeep. But Mike found this one as a bit of a, almost a barn find really. It was a non-runner, hadn't been used for a while. He paid just £1,100 for it. He got it back to the workshop. Ed got it running. There were quite a few sort of bits and pieces that needed doing on it. He replaced the leaf springs, shock absorbers, got the suspension all sort of up to spec. The interior wasn't great. He replaced the seats. Also the steering wheel was quite mouldy, so Ed swapped that over. The other thing was it didn't have a roof with it. So Ed and the ever-suffering Paul set to work and put a roof on it to make it weatherproof and obviously a bit more usable in the UK climate. Now, this was back in September 2006 that this episode come out, so let's have a quick look at the numbers and see how it worked out. Now, as I already mentioned, Mike paid £1,100 for it. So with all the costs of all the bits and pieces they did to it, leaf springs and so on, it came to a total of £2,672. So they did splash out on this one. Mike actually sold it for £3,900, so quite a minimal profit on this one, just £128. Now let's fast forward to 2023. I grabbed my Practical Classics magazine and looked for a value and got nothing. They don't list it. So just to keep all you guys out there happy, I've done some research, had a look through the internet, averaged the figures, brought together lots of data, Excel spreadsheets, all that kind of thing. And I've come up with an estimated value for that vehicle today of £12,500. So that would add £8,600 over what they sold it for back in 2006. But you're not overly interested in that. This is what you want to know, is what's happened to it. Well, we go to our friends My Car Check. bring up one of their comprehensive check. What does it tell us? Well, it's still showing us active. It's had MOT. Let's go back and look. We can look at 06, 07, 08, 09, 10, looking good. Skips a couple of years, 11 and 12, nothing. 13 and 14, it's back. And the final MOT expired on that one in December 15. Now, quite often in these cases, when the MOTs expires, they seem to sort of disappear into the wilderness. But not this one. Let's look at the ownership. Look at this. The last owner acquired it in 2007, but the current owner acquired this vehicle 10th of September 2023, just 2.5 months ago. Look at that. We're onto a live one here, so hopefully this one is going to come back and show its face. Now, I hope you've really enjoyed those two. If you have, please stick with us and click that subscribe button and hit the notification bell, because we're going to crack on with this series, and we're doing lots of other little videos around this as well regarding cars on TV. And we've got an exclusive video coming up with a local motor museum that's just opened, so nobody else has got that video. So if you want to see it, stick with us.